everyone and welcome back to my channel, Rex channel. If you're clicking in for the first time, I assure you, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't, and if you have, you're welcome to my YouTube training. To every one of my returning subscribers, I want to say thank you so much for the love and for the support. I really do appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. Today we're going to be making this pencil skirt. It's not like the regular pencil skirt which we all know. There's been some alterations and some new methods that I found over the years. I've been working with it for a while now and it's been giving me beautiful results. I'd like to share it with you. So if you're interested, let's delve right into the measurements taken. Okay, for this measurement, for this skirt, like I said, it's a basic skirt, so just from about the waist to the knee length. So we'll be needing just 4 measurements. That will be the round waist measurement. Okay, the round waist. So you might want to ask your client where she keeps her skirt. All right, about this end right here, just above the novel or wherever they keep it. That measurement, the round hip measurement, you want to take about around the hip, the biggest part of the butt. Okay, my tape just keeps sliding down. When taking this measurement, you might want to put in 2 fingers or a finger in, just so that there's some ease. So for this measurement, this is 39. Okay, and then from the waist to the hip line, all right, to about the point where you have the larger part of the butt, I mean around the hip, and for this is about 7.5, and then the total length. Okay, but I'm making use of not this measurement but my own measurement for this tutorial. So if you're ready, let's delve right into this video. Okay, we have our pattern paper here and I have just one piece right here. We're going to be cutting for the front and back with this piece, and at the same time we're not going to cut the front and then later on to the back. No, we're cutting all in one. Reason is I want to manage this paper, and as a good fashion designer you want to learn how to manage your fabric and also your pattern paper also. So the first thing we want to do is to mark out 2 inches from this point right here. Okay, and then rule that out. Now we have this line. Okay, now we're going to start with the front piece alone, and the front piece is going to be, we're going to take our front piece measurement from this line right here. Okay, from this line right here. The method we're going to be using, I don't know, I'm not sure, I did mention it at the beginning of the video, but the method we're going to be using here is the hip and the waist allocation method. After this, we want to take our hip line and our skirt length measurement. But before we do that, I need us to understand that since this skirt is going to have a band, all right, our band is going to be 1.5 inches in height, but we're going to reduce our length by 1 inch, just so, because our 1 inch band is going to complete the length, and that will cause our hip line and the length of our skirt to be altered. Okay, I hope we got that. So our hip line is supposed to be 8 inches, but because I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch, and our hip the band is going to complete it to make it 8. Okay, so as against 8 inches rather, I'm going to make my hip line 7 inches. All right, so you want to mark 7 inches from the top right here this way, and then the length of my skirt is about 27 inches. Okay, now this is 7. I wanted the length of my skirt to be 28 inches, but I minused, it went up by 1 inch. All right, I hope we're getting that clearly. So you want to rule that out this way and this way. Okay, this skirt is like a midi skirt. It's going to be below my knee. Okay, I don't want it above my knee. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is to take my waist measurement. Now to take my waist measurement, I said something about our bust allocation and then hip allocation and waist allocation. All right, now what we're going to be doing here to get our waist, like if we all look closely, our bust, our waist, our front waist is slightly bigger than our back waist. Reason is because of our belly. That's the belly of a woman. Okay, is slightly bigger than the back. So we're going to be altering that measurement. Okay, for this instance, my waist I'm using for this measurement is 35. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to divide our waist by 2. That is 2, one for the back and one for the front. Okay, and then the one for the front is going to be plus 0.5, is about half inch, and then we're taking our measurement for the back is going to be minus 0.5. Okay, so front waist, which is FW, is equal to total waist, okay, divided by 2, all right, plus 0.5. In this case, the front waist is 35 divided by 2 plus 0.5. Okay, and as we all know, 35 divided by 2 is 17 and a half, and then 17 and a half plus 0.5 is 18 inches. So that makes our front waistline to be 18 inches. Okay, 18 inches. So let's have that in mind. So since we're cutting in quarter, all right, our 18 inches is going to be divided by 2. This is supposed to be on fold, so we're going to fold this is supposed to be on fold rather. So our 18 inches is supposed to be from lace left to the right. All right, so because we're cutting on fold, which is quarter of the waist, is going to be 18 divided by 2. I hope you understand that. That makes it 9 inches. All right, I want to mark that out. The next thing is moving down to the waist. All right, now if you look at the woman anatomy, the anatomy of a woman, the hip, all right, we have more butt at the back, so that makes the back part of the hip bigger than the front part of the hip. I hope you understand what I'm saying. The front from here, from the front to this other front, is smaller than the back. All right, so we're going to add more inches to the back so that we can have more space to accommodate the butt, which also make our skirt more fitted at the back because we're giving room for the butt to sit in. Now to get the hip, that's front hip, which is FH, will now be equals to total hip divided by 2 minus, because we're working with the front, I said because we're working with the front this time, the front is smaller and the back is bigger. So when we're working with the back, we're going to add, but for the front, we're going to minus. So it's either minus 1 or 1.5. Now let me explain a little on 1 or 1.5. Some persons have very big butt, very big hip rather. Okay, so you want to put that into consideration also. But some persons also have smaller butts. Okay, those kind of persons, you can put them you can minus just 1 inch so that there will be some difference, but not a significant difference. But when the person is on the big side, it's advisable for you to use the 1.5. So that's why I said 1 or 1.5, because you know you cannot have a slim person who has a hip of about, let's say 38 is right, it's kind of small, all right, 38 or 37. I want to add 1.5. The person might not have a big butt, so when you're done with the skirt, the back might be looking too puffy with no butt in it. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So that's the reason why you have this. And also another thing you can also use to know or to be on the safe part on what to add or what to minus, okay, either 1 or 1.5, is look at the hip measurement and the waist measurement. The difference between the hip measurement and the waist measurement, if it's less than 6.5, okay, then you can go for 1 inch. But if it's 6 inches or 6.5 inches and above, then you can go for 1.5. All right, for this measurements, our hip difference, the difference between our hip and our waist is about 11 inches. So I think 1.5 is perfect, if not more, but 1.5 is just an average. So I'm going to minus that. So for this case, we're going to be making use of 1.5, and that is going to be 46 divided by 2 minus 1.5. So in this case, our hip is 46 inches rather, divided by 2 gives us 23 inches minus 1.5, that will give us 21.5 inches. So our front hip is 21.5 inches. All right, so you want to mark 21.5 inches, but like I said, as we did for the waist measurement, we're going to be dividing this by 2. We're going to be dividing this by 2 just because what we're using, or we're cutting on a quarter. Okay, so 21 and half divided by 2 is 10 3/4. All right, so we want to put that mark right here and then mark right here. Okay, for the hem right here, what you want to do is minus 6 inches from the hip measurement, then divide by 4 inches. Okay, I'll take that again. Minus 6 inches from the hip measurement and then divide by 4. So for this measurement is 46 inches minus 6 inches, that makes it 40 inches, divided by 4 gives us 10 inches. So we're going to just be marking 10 inches right here. Remember, we divided by 4 simply because it's into 4. We're not adding anything, just like we did in the waist or this. Or you can basically take what you have here and minus about 3/4 or 1 inch. Okay, whatever thing you have on your hip here, minus 1 inch and then place it here, or 3/4 inches. So I'm marking 10 inches right here. And then we're going to rule that out. That's what we have for the front. Okay, it's as simple as that, as simple as this. All right, so the next thing we want to do is to mark for the back. Now moving on to the back, remember, I'll have it in mind that we minus 0.5 inch for the back waist, for the front waist rather. So for the back waist, we're going to be minusing 0.5 inch. I'll take that again. For the front waist, we added 0.5 inch. Okay, that's half inch. So for the back, we're going to be minusing it. All right, so what we're going to do is the other way round. Back waist is equal to total waist divided by 2 minus 0.5, which is equal to 35 divided by 2 minus 0.5. So this 35 divided by 2, which gives us 17 and a half, minus 0.5. So the back waist is going to be 17. Okay, I hope we can see that. All right, the back waist is total waist divided by 2 minus 0.5. This is 35 divided by 2 minus 0.5. 35 divided by 2 is 17 and a half minus 0.5, which is half inch. We makes it 17 inches. So we're going to move over to this waist right here. We take our measurements from the already taken waist from the front measurement. So we're going to do this. We're going to mark it this way. So 17 inches divided by 2 is 8 and a half. So we're going to be marking our 8 and a half from this point right here. This is where our 8 and a half inches mark is. Okay, we'll move on to our hip measurement. Now, looking at what we have here, our front hip, we did plus 1.5. Okay, so when you're cutting out your back hip, you have to also add, for the front we minus 1.5. So for the back, you're going to add 1.5. Whatsoever value you minus in front is what you're going to add at the back, and whatsoever you add in front for the waist is what you're going to minus from the back. Okay, that being said, for the back waist is going to be total waist divided by 2, which is 46 divided by 2, which gives us 23 plus 1.5 inch. Okay, that makes it 24 and a half. So 24 and a half, we're going to divide that by 2 simply because we're cutting on fold. 24 and a half is going to give us 12 1/4. So we're going to be marking 12 1/4 from this point right here. All right, that being said, we're moving on to this. But like I said earlier, just like we did for the front piece, the back still remains the same. Okay, the back still remains the same. So we're going to join the lines up. But before we do that, because of this waist and hip allocation, our front piece is not going to have a dart. The only piece that's going to be carrying a dart is the back piece. Okay, I hope we got that. The back pieces are going to be carrying darts because of the hip allocation, because we added that, and then whatever value you add is what you're going to use as the the dart. Okay, I hope we got that. So as against the 1 inch which we usually use for dart intake, we'll be using 1.5 inches on this point, simply because we added 1.5 inches to the hip measurement for the back. All right, so if we did 1 inch, it means that will be 1 inch, and then our hip for the back too will be 1 inch. But in this case we use 1.5, so we're going to be adding the 1.5, that intake from this point. So we're marking this from here, adding 1.5, and that is what we have right here. So what we want to do at this point now is to join these lines. One more thing, okay, just so you create a casing or a sitting for the butt, all right, you just use your eyes to eyeball it. There's no specific measurement for that, but let's see if I can work out the measurement. I think from the hip line towards 10 inches, okay, towards this point, I think 10 inches to 10.5 inches will be perfect. Now what we want to do is to create a slight curve this manner. Okay, you see how I blended that in? Now I'm blending this to that way. All right, if you look closely, you see something like a butt sitting, somewhere the butt can sit, you know, comfortably. It just creates a pocket for it. All right, so this right here is our that, and then we're done with that. And then lastly, for our front piece, we're going to be cutting, or we're going to reduce the front part of the front piece of the skirt by 1 inch. All right, just so, because of the belly, you just want it to sit nicely on your waist. But if it's a high waist skirt, you won't have any need for this. So we want to come down 1/2 inch from this point, and then we'll blend that in. So you can join this up, all right, in a curve, and then I'm going to join this too. And then we'll blend that out. Next thing we want to do is to mark out our darts. Okay, now I said we're going to be using 1.5 inches, so we're going to put it in the middle of the back piece. Now this is the back piece right here, this to this. Okay, now what we want to do is get the midpoint of this. This is 10 inches, so the midpoint is about 5 inches right here. And then you want to draw a straight line, okay, straight down to the hip line, just to be sure you have a straight line. And then want to come down this way by 5 inches. All right, so on both sides we're going to have 3/4 inches, because remember that we took in 1.5 inches for the dart. So this is what we have right here. Now we can cut this out. Remember I said this is for the front and the back piece. Okay, so the first thing you want to cut out is the back piece. All right, you want to cut out the back piece first, and then we'll go ahead to cut the front piece. Look closely, I've gone ahead to cut out my back piece. Okay, I've cut out the lining rather for my back piece. Now I added 1.5 to the hem. I added 1.5 to the hem, 2 inches for the side allowance and the zip allowance also, and then 1/2 inch for the waist band. Okay, I've gone ahead also to mark out my dart legs. All right, I'm going to use my tracing wheel to get that to show on the other side of the fabric. I'm going to go ahead now to cut out this pattern paper for the front piece, and then cut it on my main dress. So to get our front piece, for us to cut this, is either, if you don't want to spoil or destroy this pattern paper, you can simply fold over this way to get your measurements, and also fold over the waist line this way. Okay, that's if you want to use this pattern paper again. This is exactly what's all that you need. This is what we have for the front piece. I've gone ahead to cut my front piece. I only folded this over because I feel like I'm going to make use of this pattern paper again. So I added 1/2 inch to the waistline here, and then 2 inches to the side, and then 1 inch for the hem. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this on my fabric, and then I'll show you. I'll cut this for my main fabric, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I've cut out the back piece. All right, I've drawn out my dart legs. All right, and I reduced the lining of the back piece by 1.5 inch so that I can fold this over. Okay, all right, and then this right here is my front piece. I also reduced the length of the front piece by 1.5 inch, and then added my side seam allowance, and then 1/2 inch also for the waist measurement. So what I'm going to do is go over to the machine, and then I'll show you how to sew this all up. So this is the back piece. The first thing we're going to do is to hold the darts. Okay, I've drawn out the darts for the lining. This is it, and for the main dress. So I don't want to have my darts visible from the inside, so we're going to hold it first before we join our back piece to this. So let's go ahead. Okay, this is my fabric, right side facing right side of the fabric. I've gone ahead to hold my darts, so my inseam is going to be looking beautiful. So the first thing we want to do is to go down to the hem where you have the fabric, the lining being 1.5 inches less than the fabric. Hold it onto this one, the main fabric. So you're going to bring this close up this way and sew them up with 1/2 inch this way. So we've sewn this with 1/2 inch this way. The next thing we want to do now is to go up, hold it to be equal this way, okay, to sew the sides. Right, so we're going to sew this side with 1/2 inch and do the same thing on this part. So that's that for this piece. So we're going to flip that out and then give it a good press. We're going to repeat the same process for the other back piece and then the front piece, and then we're going to give it a good press. So this is what one side of our back piece is looking, and then I'll go over to complete the other ones and then show you. I have to turn this over, and I've already given it a very good press. This is the front, okay, and this is the back pieces. You can see that's already giving it like a butt pocket where the butt can sit in, if you can look closely. Okay, so we're almost done. At this point I already have my marking, my 1.5 inch zip allowance right here. So I'll just quickly take that out. I'll just quickly take my measurements this way, about 1.5 or 1/4. 1/4 is okay. I'll just take that straight down. All right, and when I get to about 8 inches, I'm going to stop my zip around here, and then I'm going to mark this all the way down. All right, and then 10 inches, from 10 inches upwards from the hem. Okay, so 10 inches upwards from the hem right here. All right, I'm going to, you can use 10 inches or 10.5. All right, I'm going to mark so that our slit is going to start from this point right down here. So this is it, and then we're going to mark that out. Okay, so our zip is going to be on this casing right here. All right, our zip stops right here. Then we're going to sew this, and this is going to be our slit. So I'll just sew that up together, take my measurements. Okay, take my measurements this way, my full measurements this way, and then sew up my side allowance. All right, then the next thing we need to do is our band. All right, I already have a strip of fabric here, cut 4 inches, all right, in height, in length rather. Okay, and then in the width is about 38 inches. My waist is actually 35 inches, but I did more than that so that I can have enough to turn it over when and I will cut out the excess. Okay, so at this point I'm going to introduce my gum stay. Also, I'll iron this onto this. Okay, you need a gum stay, not the softest one, but not too hard also. So you just need this, and then we're going to iron that onto this, fold into two this way, and then sew onto the waist of the skirts with 1/2 inch, and then we'll be done with that. So I'm going to do all of that, and then I'll show you what the final look is. So if you've watched till this time, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for clicking into my channel. I really do appreciate it. Kindly consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, and then put on your post notification bell so that you get notified whenever I put up a new video. So until when I see you in my next video, bye.